A major frontier AI lab just halted internal development on its flagship model, acting on self-administered safety evaluations independent of external regulatory pressure. The model is called Astra, and the exact trigger for this pause was a preliminary evaluation that led OpenAI to conclude they cannot rule out critical cyber capabilities. This marks the first time OpenAI's Preparedness Framework has actually triggered a critical threshold protocol since the document was published in December of 2023. This operational shutdown was entirely self-imposed. OpenAI pulled the brake before any external validator, third-party tester, or government agency saw a single metric or score. This connects to a very recent pattern. Just 4 days prior to this announcement, OpenAI showcased this exact same model solving 10 open math problems while revealing 0 underlying attempt data to back up the feat. This cybersecurity announcement follows the identical playbook. OpenAI is claiming a historic, self-reported result while completely withholding the evidence required to verify it. If you require immediate, rigorous breakdowns of frontier model disclosures the day they publish, hit subscribe. The Preparedness Framework now functions as a revealed preference document of operational realities, dictating how this company allocates its engineering resources. We are looking at a glaring structural paradox. OpenAI has paused work on a highly anticipated flagship model, yet their public announcement contains absolutely no benchmark names. There are no task descriptions, there are no success rates, there is no evaluation methodology that an external researcher could check, reproduce, or even estimate variance on. Every single mechanism to verify this capability claim exists purely in the future tense, or strictly behind closed doors. This creates an enormous epistemic gap. The audience is being asked to evaluate a leap in cyber capabilities, relying on nothing but the claimant's word. Yet, standing opposite that lack of data are the immense organizational and engineering costs OpenAI is visibly paying to implement this lockdown. How do builders and researchers evaluate a claim of this magnitude when the only available data is the self-imposed operational friction incurred by the company making the claim? To understand exactly what tripped the alarm, we have to look at OpenAI's stated timeline. They note that internal evaluations run over the past few days showed significant advancements in agentic coding. Historically, previous frontier models, including GPT 5.6 Sol, were evaluated and routed strictly to the high threshold for cyber capabilities. Astra bypassed that historical baseline. It triggered the highest alarm the framework has. Under this framework, reaching the critical cybersecurity threshold requires meeting a highly specific set of conditions. The first is the ability to identify and develop functional zero-day exploits across all severity levels. These 0 days cannot be theoretical exercises in a sterile lab. They must be developed against hardened, real-world critical systems. And the crucial operational constraint governing this entire definition is that the model must achieve this exploit entirely without human intervention. The framework also provides an alternative route to the critical designation. The model must be able to devise and execute end-to-end novel strategies for cyber attacks. This execution must be achievable given only a high-level desired goal from the user, meaning the model handles all the intermediate tactical planning itself. Despite these agentic capabilities, OpenAI provided one direct operational clarification. Astra was explicitly not involved in the recent Hugging Face exploit. Crossing this specific logic gate requires an autonomous capability orders of magnitude beyond current public baselines. It shifts the threat model for deployed AI into a new category of risk. The direct consequence of crossing that critical threshold is a hard stop. OpenAI instituted a total pause on internal activities involving Astra that do not meet a new set of strengthened constraints. Unblocking the model requires baseline infrastructure upgrades. This includes isolated testing environments and restricted access to networks and tools. At the physical security and deployment layers, it requires enhanced model weight protections, heavy encryption, and sandboxed execution. But for developers building agentic products today, there is one architectural takeaway that matters more than the rest: the implementation of universal monitoring for risky actions. The mechanism for this control is precise. The monitors actively evaluate the model's chain of thought reasoning in real time as it executes tasks. If high-risk activity or misalignment is detected in that reasoning, it triggers a hard security response to review and immediately interrupt the action. This universal chain of thought interrupt path is being applied during the training and evaluation phases, rather than being limited to standard deployment controls. It is worth acknowledging that this approach sits squarely in the middle of a live research debate. Recent papers demonstrate that models can maintain their final answers, even when their visible reasoning is replaced with filler tokens, which questions whether chain of thought is actually a faithful signal to monitor in the first place. Looking ahead, OpenAI has committed to testing these capabilities by working with relevant government agencies and select AI safety organizations. This creates an immediate second-order effect for the wider ecosystem. OpenAI states they will be providing recommended security controls to their third-party testing partners. If you are a technical founder running evaluations against frontier APIs, you should expect those recommended controls to quickly become an inherited compliance checklist for your own infrastructure. Chain of thought monitoring paired with a hard interrupt path has officially moved from a theoretical safety research direction to the required product-scale architectural standard for agentic deployment. This brings us back to the stark epistemic reality of the announcement. A capability shift is being asserted with absolutely zero published quantitative data. The entire weight of this disclosure hangs on the specific linguistic framing OpenAI chose to use. They cannot rule out critical cyber capabilities. On one hand, cannot rule out perfectly encapsulates what honest, rigorous caution looks like under conditions of extreme uncertainty. It is the exact phrasing a responsible lab should use when they see something alarming but haven't fully characterized it. On the other hand, cannot rule out is also the exact phrasing required for unfalsifiable capability marketing of an unreleased, unpriced model. Nothing within the text of the disclosure provides a mechanism for a reader to distinguish between genuine alarm and aggressive pre-launch positioning. Unlike the math results 4 days prior, which at least shipped checkable lien certificates to back up their claims, this cyber post ships nothing that can be externally verified. The phrase "cannot rule out" creates an epistemic trap. It is a claim massive enough to demand attention, yet so vaguely quantified it deflects all immediate scrutiny. To resolve this tension, we have to re-anchor our analysis on the only verifiable fact present in the announcement: the self-imposed operational friction. Pausing internal development and mandating heavy security engineering controls across the board are real, expensive organizational costs. A company does not lightly incur that level of operational drag for a mere marketing document. Right now, this self-inflicted organizational pain is the single strongest piece of evidence that OpenAI's concern over Astra's cyber capabilities is genuine. We now have exact criteria to watch for to prove this claim. The confirm condition is a government agency or AI Safety Institute publishing their own independent assessment corroborating Astra's capabilities. If an external body, like the UK AI Safety Institute, confirms capabilities at or near the critical definition, this announcement retroactively becomes the moment the Preparedness Framework proved its worth in public. The kill condition is equally clear. Astra eventually ships with a routine high designation, lacking any external report or published evaluation detail to justify the initial panic. If that kill condition occurs, the industry must retroactively classify this entire cannot rule out episode as manufactured pre-launch hype. Until that external validation arrives, the only honest technical position remains unchanged. Everything the world knows about Astra's capabilities is strictly limited to what OpenAI has unilaterally chosen to say about them.